In recent news circulating, one centralized cryptocurrency exchange has put a pause on order execution of our AAA favorite AMP token. The reason why is quite interesting. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, claims the AMP token is, quote, a security, end quote. And in today's episode, I want to peel back a layer from a completely different perspective. Let's begin with the SEC filing itself. There's no doubt by now you've been subject to lots of screen snippets of this document, along with various readings of the content. But one thing I've not seen explained is this perspective. And that's to take a step back and observe the following. When you look at the content here, what is it we're seeing? What I see is an explanation of the company behind the AMP token. Observe that quite a bit of attention is given in this legal document to Flexa Network, a Delaware company, where the owners are, who they are, and so on. I was reading this and asked myself this question, quote, there's a lot of time in this brief in explaining that Flexa Network is behind the AMP token versus just the mechanics of the AMP token, and that Flexa Network primarily operates in the United States, end quote. And why is that? Well, that's why we need to talk a bit about the Howey test. The Howey test, named after the inventor, William J. Howey, came up with this guide to help decision on whether certain transactions qualify as investment contracts. If the answer is yes, based on his rubric, then there are simply more reporting rules that are required, as well as maybe a few additional structures that need to be built up around that investment. The Howey test is important, so let's touch on that again in a moment. If you're looking over Twitter, there's a pretty wide pull and tug on the idea that the AMP token is not a security. The question is this, quote, so what is the legal definition of a security, and how is that different from the SEC's definition of a security, end quote. Up on the screen now, I have exactly those definitions. The broad idea behind both of these, if you go searching a bit further down deep, is that the inherent value of the thing that one purchases goes up or down based on the work done by other people. Where it gets pretty interesting is when you start exploring the idea of the difference between, say, a collateral and a security in a legal context. If you consider this explanation from Cornell Law, it's effectively the idea behind the AMP token. So let's ask this. Is all collateral inherently a security? The answer? No. No, because collateral is pledged as security to another party, meaning up until the action is taken of the pledge itself, that specific action, collateral is considered just an asset. A great example here is if you're applying for a loan, you might put up your car as a form of collateral. The AMP token is a rather unique creation in the universe. Unique because it moves in and out of these categories as a hybrid financial product. At rest, it's not necessarily a collateral until another person on the network makes a purchase. And then you have a chance of your tokens being used then as collateral to temporarily subsidize the payment to ensure it goes through. The AMP token could be viewed as a security if the definition is narrowed to the inherent value of the AMP token being directly correlated to the economic activity of others, which is called out in the white paper and discussed in this brief, and also literally the entire reason this token exists. And all of those all at the same time. The AMP token is also none of these things because it's just some digital bits that exist on a computer somewhere. If you are looking to understand a bit more deeply about what's really going on here, the place to start isn't the news, but in legal definitions of key terms: security, collateral, insurance, and asset. Getting into each of these is way too much for us to go into today, but I wanted to give you a direction for further research. One more thing. The last item to touch on is this concept that the SEC has poison pilled the AMP token and other tokens from trading on the centralized exchanges. You might call it a ripple effect that'll cascade across all the main exchanges, where you won't be able to directly buy or sell AMP token. Unfortunately, I see more of that in the near future, unless the centralized exchanges are willing to engage the SEC directly and not prevent outright trading and order execution. However, the centralized exchanges could jeopardize their other legal court actions that's already stacking up on them. So you may wonder what's really going on behind the scenes here, and why some of the more popular tokens are being selected out from a sea of a whole bunch of tokens by the SEC. So if you read the court briefing, it's clear the selection is about ensuring the SEC has a very strong argument in their favor that these cryptocurrency assets are something that falls under their regulatory oversight. There are good arguments both for and against the SEC to be involved in regulation of cryptocurrency. So with Flexa Network already involved in getting money transmitter licenses, crypto licensor like the BIT license, and plays nicely in the regulatory framework across the US, up until this time, well, that is certainly a feather in their cap. Flexa so far has not halted from further growing out their platform. However, this regulatory change by the SEC will certainly have some sort of impact. Whether that impact is good or not so good, well, that's hard to say, but I do know this. This is Unusual Due Diligence. In today's episode, we talked about definitions. It seems like the theme this year, quote, what words can we redefine this year? I am your host, Poseidon, whose spirit animates me, the Talking Milkshake. Make waves and maybe redefine some words, my friends.